Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christy. For over 4 years, I lived and traveled in a casita travel trailer, but now I'm living solo in a 20-foot cargo van that I'm self-converting while I'm on the road. I'd love to take you along with me on my adventures, exploring new places, learning new things, and figuring out this thing called life. So let's get to it. Don't forget, if you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button to follow along. Hey everybody, welcome to today's Q&A. This will be the first one that I've ever done. A few weeks ago, I asked you guys to email some questions in, and what a tremendous response you guys had to that. So thank you so much to everybody who sent questions in. I can't get to them all on one video, so we're going to get started with what I can get to. And then I think a new feature in videos going forward, I'm going to do a question of the day and address some of those things. The reason I like to do a Q&A is because there are some things that you guys ask that require a physical explanation, or it's easier to show you rather than to type it all out on a message. So let's get started. One of the first questions that someone asked was, how did I get the name for my van? So my van's name is Indy, and I named her that for 3 different reasons. In part, we're having quesadillas today, by the way. In part, Indy is short for independence. I'm also a fan of Indiana Jones, who's kind of like the fearless explorer, chaser of adventure kind of thing. So I can make Indy female. One translation also is meaning somebody who doesn't necessarily mean to be different, but they are. They don't go with the flow. They don't necessarily fit the mold. And so that kind of sounded like my adventures and the life that I live, a little bit out of the box. So that's where she got her name. Next question is one that I've gotten quite a bit, both from people who travel, but also people who are looking into this life, is what I think the pros and cons are for a van versus a camper, tow behind camper like I used to have. Now, I will start this, like I say every time. I had the casita camper and the tow behind, and I was a huge fan. I loved it. I will always be a fan of that. That was my home for 4 years. I did change the way that I travel a little bit. One of the main reasons for me that I changed to the van is the setup and breakdown, because I move constantly every few days. I didn't want to set up and break down the camper every single time. That was wearing on me just a little bit. Now, with that said, if you're somebody who's going to travel and stay at places for a week at a time, or a month, or you're going to be stationary, absolutely loved my camper. And that was you have everything that you want. You're completely self-contained. Whereas right now in this van anyway, I'm still adding things, and so I'm missing some of those conveniences in this van. The camper that I had, particularly the casita, was easy to tow. You didn't even know the thing was back there hardly. And the benefit of that was that you could unhook and have a separate vehicle. Right now, I'm at a particular campground. If I want to go to one of the trailheads, which is a couple miles actually up the road, I have to batten down the hatches in the van and unplug. The only thing I plug in is my extension cord, but unplug and then drive up to the trailhead, or I hike 2 miles to get to the trailhead to hike, 4 miles or whatever it is. Some people might see that as a negative for the van. Doesn't really bother me, but I could definitely see where that would be an issue. One of the other things that I chose the van for is for parking, because I can park anywhere. And currently in the state that the van is in right now, I don't have any markings on it, so I look a bit like a work van. I do have the Max Air fan on top, but unless it's open, you really can't tell. So I do still look a little bit like a work van, and I can park just about anywhere, and nobody pays attention because they think it's just some workers there. Eventually, I'll have my logo and stuff put on, but I can do that now. Obviously, if you're towing a camper behind a vehicle, you may be asked to move along at some point. For that. Plus, I also, with the van, I can fit in any parking space, and it's a little easier to just go to those places that I've never been, that I don't have to worry about having a turn radius or having room to swing or to back or any of those kinds of things. Speaking of backing, I know if you watch my channel, you know that I could back my camper. I didn't like doing it, and I did practice quite a bit, and I got a little bit better towards the end, but I found myself having a little bit of anxiety is not the word, being a little anxious, I guess, for places that I had not been when towing the camper. And if I stayed at a state park or an RV park, a private park, I tended to gravitate towards the pull-through parking spots. And I missed out on some pretty spots because I didn't want to back down around a tree or down a hill kind of thing. So for those reasons, I like the van. A lot of people can park the campers. My friend Tyler Jesse from Travel Like No One Else, I mean, he could back it on an obstacle course and never break a sweat. I never got that confidence doing that. So another comparison for you guys on the van versus the camper, for me anyway, and I was actually a little bit surprised about this one. So my camper van, when I purchased it in January, I drove back from Denver. The roads were, super flat, no headwinds, and I got about 20 miles a gallon coming back, which impressed me. And then since then, I haven't gone on a really long trip since I've added some of the weight in the van, but just around town and on some of the longer, shorter trips, I guess, I get anywhere from, well, I'll say the lowest I've ever gotten is 14 miles a gallon. And that has been over a lot of hills with a strong headwind, things that come into play. I would say average is probably going to be 16, 17 miles a gallon for me, which is better than I got when I was towing the Casita with my Pathfinder. So for me, that was a bonus. The flip side of that is I do have to take my van into town anytime I want to run to the store, just for, when you're hauling a camper, even if you pay extra or you're spending extra gas towing it, you do have the option, of course, to unhook and then take your vehicle into town or into the activities or whatever it is that you want to do. I don't have that, so it always goes with me. So the gas mileage really doesn't change for me. I don't get a break on it when I go into town and stuff like that. But I do use all the gas apps and try to save money on all that stuff. Another thing for me was maintenance. Not that the Casita was a ton of maintenance for me, but you do have to worry about, instead of 4 tires, I had 6 tires to worry about. And you worry about the trailer brakes and having the axles greased and all these sort of things that you do with that, having 2 separate vehicles. I don't have to worry about that now. And I would rather, if I need my vehicle to be serviced, I'd rather take one thing in and know that just about any shop can work on that, than to have to try to get 2. Also, if I break down, I'm having to have the camper towed as well. I guess the con for that is, obviously, if the van breaks down, that's my house and my vehicle. So then I'm trying to figure out how, not only where am I going to stay, but how am I going to get there? So I understand that is definitely a con for people. Not everybody is going to sell their vehicles to buy a van. So you would have something maybe, or you may not sell your home and all your belongings to buy a van. So you may have something, but that is something to think about. And definitely something that would be difficult for me. Obviously, you want to keep some money saved back for hotels or repair work and all that stuff anyway before you get on the road. But it is something to think about. Another thing to add to that is one reason I wanted to change to the van is because I have a lot of travel coming up that's going to be across the U.S. And while I do my homework ahead of time to make sure that I'm staying in safe locations, you just never know. And with the Casita camper, if I felt threatened in a particular situation, I would have to get out of the camper to get into the Pathfinder to drive off. In this situation, I just climb up into the front seat and drive off from the van. And you know what? Worst case scenario, if I had to drive off plugged in and replace my extension cord, so be it. So there are definitely pros and cons to both. And I'm not biased more towards one or the other because I would have stayed in my Casita if it weren't that I travel every few days as much. Love the van though, and I love the life and the freedom that having the van has given me since I bought it. So either way, I think it depends on your specific travel needs and some things that you need to weigh out what your options are in case one of the other breaks down or you have issues with that. So just something to think about. Okay, next up, this question came from Wayne, and he wanted to know why I have a dehumidifier and why I worry about condensation in the van, or if I worry about condensation in the van. And yes, I do. It's a metal van. So with all the heat, the difference in temperature inside versus outside, you're definitely going to have some moisture buildup. The insulation that I used is hydrophobic, so it does not absorb the water. But also, I have a dehumidifier that I use when I'm hooked up to electricity to draw that moisture out of the air. And I can tell you, particularly on rainy days, it sucks a ton of moisture out of the air. So when I pour out that little cup that's full of water, I know that's moisture that's just been sitting in the air, you know, that's resting on my floors and on my ceiling and on my walls and, you know, on the bed. I do, and I'll show you this, my bed, I do have the rails under my bed, so it does get circulation underneath there. Some people don't do that and they end up having even mold underneath their mattresses because they have a flat surface and no way for that to breathe. So one of the next questions I get is one that I get all the time, and I'll answer it, but knowing that it might change. It is, what do I do about internet? I currently have T-Mobile, and I have a, you like my hand? I have a modem back here that travels with me, and it works wonderfully. However, I've only had it for about 6 weeks, and so I wasn't going to tell you guys about it until I really tested it out. But I was told that they're probably going to change the plan to a sort of a nomad plan, which means they're going to hike the price up. Instead of $60 a month that I'm paying, I'm going to end up being charged maybe $150 a month. I don't know all the details about that yet, but if that does increase, I won't be sticking with them. So that's why I haven't given my blessing on all that internet stuff yet. I know a lot of people use Starlink and are very happy with the service. I didn't want to pay the $500 to $1,000 up front to get the equipment. It's a lot of investment in the initial outlay, and then still $150 a month. And I just don't feel like I'm at a point in my channel where I can justify paying that much money. If the T-Mobile ends up going up to $150, I'm going back to my hotspot on my phone, and then I'll just wait till I get to places where I can share their Wi-Fi before I do the rest of my downloads and check emails and all that kind of fun stuff. I'm not the only one who tastes it right from the pan, right? That's good. I'm going to go enjoy my nice, easy chicken fajita tacos for lunch, and then we're going to take a walk. Okay, the next question was about the insulation. They wanted to know what type of insulation that I use. So I use 3M Thinsulate is the name of the insulation, and it is attached by a spray glue, 3M spray glue. I have a separate video that I did on that, so I will link that in the description. But I did insulate the van. This is not insulation up here. I just have my window shade stored, but I did insulate the van. The ceiling, I just have a cover over it right now because it's too dark without it. Eventually I'll put walls in, but the van itself has been insulated. And let me just tell you, it has made a huge difference on the climate and sound, both. The next question was, how do I stay cool, or do I have air conditioning? I do have 2 small bunk windows on either side of the van for cross ventilation, and I have the Max Air fan in the ceiling that helps to blow air in or take air out and helps to circulate it. Then in the front windshield, I do put the window guard, and I have insulated curtains that block the cab from the rest of the van that keeps it cooler back in the back for me. So one of the things that someone said is that there are not 110 outlets at the campgrounds. Now here in Texas, almost every single state park has a 110 outlet at the pedestal. If they do not, however, I have this adapter that I use. As you can see, you can plug your 110 plug into there, and this is actually for a 30 amp plug. So essentially, you can plug this in here and then plug your extension cord directly into that for your power. So I can link this thing, but it's good to carry this always with me just in case they don't have 110, but there's your alternative. So the next question was, what is my favorite Texas state park? And then also, what is my favorite place to take a vacation so far? For me, The answer to the state park question has always been Caprock Canyons. That's one of my favorite parks. It's in the panhandle of Texas. You're hiking in the canyons and it's absolutely, my bird wants to say hello. It's absolutely beautiful, but also you have the bison coming through the campsites, which I thought was really cool. Until now, and that will probably always be my very favorite, but I did the Colorado Bend State Park the last video, and I got to see the waterfalls in full force, and it was stunning. So I'm gonna have to say that's like number 1A or something, because I really did enjoy that. The beauty there was indescribable for me, so that would be my second one. As far as favorite vacation spot ever, I went to Peru back in 2008 and I got to go see Machu Picchu, which had been on my bucket list for a very long time, and it was absolutely gorgeous there. I went there to see, you know, Machu Picchu and have that on my, check that off my bucket list, but the culture, the people, I absolutely loved Peru, and I'll go back someday and stay a lot longer. That was early on in my travel days, and so I went with a travel group. I would like to go back when I can kind of explore the country a little bit by myself and immerse in the culture a bit more. So that was definitely one of my favorite vacation places, but also I am a very picky eater. I don't try a lot of things, although I'm getting better the older I get, but their traditional dish of choice there is guinea pig. When I say guinea pig, I don't mean just the meat off of a guinea pig. I mean literally a complete guinea pig with a skewer through it that they put over the fire, and that's how it comes to your plate. I couldn't stomach tasting it from that condition, so a guy that was on the tour group with us pulled the meat, removed the meat from the carcass and brought it down to me to try, and I must say I did not enjoy it. It wasn't tasty for me, but you know what, when in Rome, do as the Romans, that's what people say. So I did try it. I was proud of myself for at least trying that, but I think just the appearance made it far less appetizing. So this question comes all the way from Maryland, and it's one I'm going to answer very quickly because I don't feel myself to be an expert by any means on this matter. She wanted to know what advice I would give a new YouTuber or someone just starting out with their channel. Again, I'm not the expert on this one, but one insight or some insight that I can offer is be patient and know that this is what you want to do. It takes a year to a year and a half for most people to get monetized, assuming that your goal is to eventually be monetized. It takes a while to do that, so you spend a lot of hours filming and editing and a lot of time and money and effort putting into your channel before you ever see any real benefits, at least monetary benefits from doing so. And if that's your goal to get there, just know that a lot of people they lose hope before they ever get there. So number 1, I would say be patient. Number 2, be consistent. And number 3, find whatever you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, it's not going to translate on video. And if you look at this just as a way to make money, I can promise you that the amount of effort you put in initially is not going to equal the payout that you get. So just make sure it's something that you really enjoy. So the final question for today is, how did I get started? I get asked this all the time. What was the catalyst? What got me into van life? Why do I want to do this? And I do have a separate video that goes into pretty great detail and into that. It's called My Story in the Year Ahead, and I can link that for you guys. But the short version, and I hate to say the short version, is that in 2019, my 13-year-old daughter took her life, and it was a tragedy that sent my life in a completely different direction. This is not something I had ever wanted to do. Travel was something I was interested in, but this kind of travel never in a million years was on my radar. And after I lost her, it just became a sticks and bricks and four walls really didn't mean so much to me. And my first camper was, I call it my therapy on wheels, and it's kind of the same thing here, to where I can just get out and explore nature and not dwell on some of the things that initially broke my heart, that got me on this journey. So now I'm not out here because of the tragedy that happened to me. Now I'm enjoying this life and the people that I meet and the cool places that I get to go and experience and share with you guys. And I'm not going to go into all those details here. You're welcome to go back and watch that video if you'd like. But to bookend it, it started with an unbelievable tragedy, and now at this point, it has me in a place where I can get out there and enjoy life in a way, an untethered way, both physically but emotionally in an untethered way, where I can get out and just enjoy everything. And my slogan is enjoy the little things, but that truly is what I believe. We're so busy, we get so busy in our lives with all these big things that we miss out on the little things, like that bird that's been chirping this entire video. I wouldn't be stopping to listen to that bird had I not been through what I went through. So love this life. I would not, while I would change the circumstances that got me here, absolutely, I wouldn't take for the life that I now am blessed to live. So that's my story, and again, you can go back and watch the video if you want the rest. Thanks guys for tuning in. I will get to your other questions on future videos, I promise. And if there's something that I haven't addressed here that you'd like to see, make sure to send that email to me at tinytexanadventures@gmail.com, and I will add it in a future video. Otherwise, remember to get out there and enjoy those little things, and we'll see you next time. The name of that video is called I just walked into a spider web.